Hey everybody, today I'm reviewing the ubiquitous Shure SM7B. It's a mic that it's often looked at as the ultimate podcast mic or the dream mic, but is it really worth the price? I'll be looking at the mic and comparing it to other mics so you can hear how those mics fare. For this video, I'm recording the SM7B into my Cranbourne Audio Camden preamp. No additional processing is being applied, so no EQ, no compression. The only post-processing that will be applied is mouth declick because nobody wants to hear that. I'll be applying some loudness normalization and, if necessary, a limiter to prevent any clipping. But I do want to mention that this mic was bought by me with my own money and not provided by Shure or somebody else. And since I pay for these products out of pocket, it helps me if you use the affiliate links in the description below because I get a small cut from those sales, and it helps to support the channel so I can keep making these kinds of reviews. Before we get started, let's quickly discuss the name. Shure uses letters and numbers to name their mics. In the case of the SM7B, the SM stands for studio microphone. The 7 refers to it being a dynamic mic, and the B refers to its iteration. So the SM7 was the first version that was released in 1973, followed by the SM7A in 1999, and a couple years later, they came out with the SM7B in 2001. And then last year, the year before, they came out with the new SM7DB, and we'll discuss that a little more later on. The Shure SM7B sells for $399, and the SM7DB sells for $499. Here's what you get inside the box. You get the mic and its yoke, this piece right here, which attaches to your mic stand or boom arm. There's two styles of windscreens. One is the more kind of a rounded windscreen, and then you have this flat one, which is the more commonly seen one. You also get a switch cover plate and a limited 2-year warranty. The SM7B is a dynamic mic with a cardioid polar pattern. Its frequency response is 50 Hz to 20 kHz, and it has an impedance of 150 ohms. Its sensitivity is -59 dB or 1.12 millivolts at 1 kHz. It can handle SPLs of up to 180 dB, and it uses an XLR connection. The SM7B is a fairly heavy mic, coming in at 1 pound 11 ounces or 765.4 grams. So you'll need a pretty sturdy mic stand or boom arm to support that. The housing, it's all metal. It feels really substantial. The yoke and the connector are also made of metal. There's no plastic here. Even the thumb screws, they're made of metal. The construction makes it a mic that it will last a lifetime. On the back of the mic, or the base of it, whatever you call this part of it, there are 2 switches that will change the frequency response of the mic. And up to this point, I've been using the mic in its default flat state. Now I'll activate the first switch, which is a high-pass filter. So here we have the high-pass filter activated, which, when it's engaged, rolls off low frequencies starting at 300 Hz with a more rapid drop-off below 100 Hz. It's designed to reduce low-end rumble and to kind of clean up the sound. In general, I don't tend to use roll-off switches on my mics. Instead, I opt for applying a low-cut high-pass filter during post-production with an EQ. Now I've turned off the first switch and have activated the second switch, which it provides a presence boost. And when this switch is active, it provides a mid-frequency boost between 900 Hz and 8 kHz, basically adding some clarity to the voice. And here's the mic with both switches on. So, which setting do you prefer for my voice? The high pass on or off? Mid boost on or off? Let me know in the comments. But for now, I'll switch the switches back to their neutral state. We all know that the SM7B has become a gold standard, but why is this so popular with podcasters and content creators? More than anything, it's because podcasters seem to have initially taken their cues from the radio broadcast world, where the SM7B is one of the most commonly used mics, along with the Electro Voice RE20. This meant that many of the big-time podcasters have been using it, so podcasters associate it with quality podcasts. And we can't talk about the SM7B without talking about one of the biggest frustrations associated with this mic. This mic needs a lot of gain, and by that I mean a lot. Most recommend using a preamp with at least 60 dB of gain, and even if your interface, mixer, or recorder offers 60 dB of gain, you're likely going to need an inline mic booster or preamp like the Cloud Lifter or Fethead. And this is why Shure released the SM7DB. It has that booster built in. And the reason you need that is because preamps tend to get noisy as you approach their maximum gain setting. I don't recommend starting out with a booster because I'm not a fan of spending money you don't need, but try out your mic with the device and listen to how clean the recordings are. If you're getting too much noise, you'll need a booster. But if they're pretty clean, you're fine. In my case, since I have a quieter voice and record at 24 bits, I'm able to get clean recordings, but they need a lot of volume added when I edit. And in my testing, I haven't needed a booster with the Rodecaster Duo or my Cranborn Audio Camden preamp. I haven't needed it when I tested the Elgato XLR dock. So, well, I guess I should take that back. The Elgato had enough gain to power it, but it was noisy even at 60 dB. It was still noisy at 55. So it's not a great preamp for it, but it can power it. But noise isn't the only issue that can stem from this mic's low output. For people like me who have a quieter speaking voice, it can also cause problems with not being loud enough on live calls. So this means that if you're wanting to use an SM7B for live streams or calls or really any other situation where you don't have the luxury of post-production, you'll need that booster or a device with good preamps. In my case, I can boost the live signals using UAD plugins to add some clean gain to the signal. I know not everybody has software that can add that for them. So if you need additional gain, that's where the boosters come in. And one other thing I want to mention, and I can't remember where I saw this, but I was watching a video recently that was talking about how boosters add noise to your signal. And this isn't the first time I've seen this. There's this misconception that boosters are adding noise to your signal, but that's not true. What's happening is, depending on where you put the booster, it's amplifying your signal. If you put it right here in line, right after your mic, that 20 dB of gain, it's being applied only to the signal coming out of the mic. If you plug it in at the other end of this cable, it's adding that 20 dB of gain to the signal and any noise that your cable is picking up along the way. That's why I don't really recommend cloud lifters, because their form factor, it makes it so they tend to be placed at the interface side of the XLR cable. And like I said, when you're doing this, you're amplifying any noise that is being picked up by the XLR cable. And that's not good. So ideally, put your booster directly after the mic, and that's why I recommend the Fethead, and I think SE Electronics is the company that makes the Dynamite. And I think there's a couple others out there, but those are the two I'm most familiar with. The other reason I like the Fethead or Dynamite is they're cheaper. They can be plugged directly into the mic, so you don't need a second XLR cable like you would with the Cloudlifter. And let me pause things here for just a second to ask that if you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of my content. Now, let's get back to the video. The build quality on this mic is fantastic, like all other Shure mics I've used or owned. It has a very familiar sound since we've heard it all over the place over the years, from radio to podcasts to YouTube, and for better or worse, it just has that classic professional look that so many podcasters want. A couple other things I've noticed is that it does not pick up handling noise. I've bumped the mic, my mic stand, and it really doesn't pick up those types of noises. I was on a call today and bumped the mic, and the other person didn't hear a thing. And you've noticed I've bumped it a few times during this recording, and I'm sure you're not going to hear anything either. If there is any noise, I will leave it in, so don't worry. If you don't hear it, it didn't happen. If it's there, it's because it happened. The other thing that I've noticed is this mic does a pretty good job of handling plosives. Even if you speak directly into the mic, which I don't recommend for many reasons, you don't get plosives from the mic. So no popping peas, pizza, pronto, there's no popping here. So as far as cons, I'll start with the sensitivity. I already had the section where I devoted to how much gain this mic needs, so I'm not going to repeat all of that. The other main con for this mic is its price. At $399, it's an expensive dynamic mic, and the reality is it's probably out of reach for many podcasters. So, do I recommend this mic? Yes and no. So, let me explain. First, if you're recording in a good sounding space and you're just looking to upgrade your mic, there's really no reason not to. This mic is highly recommended and used for a reason. Its flat frequency response allows it to work well on all voices, it takes EQ well, and many other cheaper mics, they have voices that they sound good with and some that they sound bad with. So they don't work as well on a variety of voices. That's where the SM7B really does shine. It, much like the MV7, it works well on every voice I've heard it on. It can be a little bit muddy on lower voices, but that's based on comparison videos I've watched, and all of that can be easily addressed with some EQ work. But now let's talk about the law of diminishing returns on this mic. You can get a good dynamic mic for $100. Those will, like I just talked about, they'll usually need a little more EQ work to sound their best, but they are viable and capable of professional recordings. You can get a really good dynamic mic like the MV7 Plus for $279, and I did a video where I compared these two specifically so you can hear the differences, but after this I'll do some mic comparisons and I'll include the MV7 as one of them. But I'll link to the video in the description below, and you should see a link up here somewhere, but for most podcasters, I just can't recommend this mic because you're essentially paying for the status of the mic more than a major upgrade or improvement of your audio. This mic probably, to most, isn't going to be $120 better than the MV7. It's not $300 better than a Shure SM58, a Sennheiser E835 or $350 better than an Audio-Technica ATR 2100X. It just isn't. The MV7 is an outstanding option for solo creators, beginners, or anybody needing a straightforward, versatile mic. Its USB XLR hybrid design, it allows flexibility for those who want simplicity without sacrificing quality, and you can always upgrade to an interface or a podcast mixer down the road, and you don't have to replace your mic. Meanwhile, the SM7B is best for users who already have the equipment and the expertise to make the most of its potential. And if you're recording in a treated studio and want the best dynamic mic performance and you have the ability to splurge, then it's probably worth every cent to you. But don't get it just because you think it's a requirement to be taken seriously. I feel there are better areas to invest that extra money. You could use it towards acoustic treatment or just saving it. Upgrading to an SM7B isn't going to drastically improve your audio quality unless you happen to be switching from a condenser or a laptop mic in an untreated space, in which case any dynamic mic would provide the same improvement. Using the SM7B, it's not going to help you increase your audience size. People don't tune into your content because of the mic you're using, unless you're here watching a mic review, in which case you're tuning in because of the mic. But for most other content, that's not the case. So what about you? Do you want an SM7B? If you do, why? What about it makes it desirable to you? If you do use one, why did you choose it? Let me know in the comments below. And as usual, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.